Hey, I'm Pep, and this is a 5-minute review of Love Letter by AEG, or Alderac Entertainment Group. Now, they aren't paying me to do this review, but they did send me a copy of the game for free. Wait, that's not true, it's my own copy of the game. I just wanted to do this video because it's Valentine's Day. If you haven't played it before, Love Letter at its core is a very simple game with a simple concept. You're trying to win the affection of the princess, and there are multiple of you at the table trying to do the same. And you do this by playing cards, and these cards represent the different people that are in the court. You're trying to see who you can pass the letter to in order to finally get it to the princess. And you can win the game, or one set of the game, by either eliminating all your suitors or having your letter the closest to the princess out of everyone whenever the time runs out. Each member of the court is a little different, and everyone's going to have one card in their hand, and then at the start of their turn they're going to draw a card and choose one of those two cards to play. If you play a guard, you basically try to predict what card the other players have. So you pick a player and you say, I think you have this. You can't pick guard because guard is the most common card, but if you get it right, that player is eliminated. But if you get it right, that player is eliminated. Next up is the priest. Whenever you play the priest, you get to look at the other player's hand. You choose the player, they show you their hand, and then you carry on. Having this information is, of course, pretty helpful, especially when you have cards like the Baron. You pick another player, and you both secretly compare the other cards in your hand. And then, whoever had the higher one wins, and the lower card player is eliminated. If you're worried about being targeted by stuff like that, you may play the Handmaiden, which makes you untargetable until your next turn. Another card you can play is the Prince. The Prince, whenever you play it, lets you choose to have a player discard their hand. If you choose yourself, you simply discard and draw a new one. If you play someone else, they discard and draw a new one. So if you think someone might have something good, you prince them. Another card to play is the King. When you play it, you trade hands with the player of your choice. Pretty simple. Now, an interesting card is the Countess. If you have the Countess in your hand along with a king or prince, you have to discard the Countess. But you can discard the Countess anytime, which can be fun because it'll make people think you have a king or a prince, and it can make people waste turns trying to eliminate you. And of course, the final and most important is the princess. What does the princess do? You lose if you discard her. So effects like the Prince that can make you discard someone's hand, you could potentially make them discard this and then they automatically lose because they've fallen out of favor with the princess. And if you happen to make it to the end and no one's eliminated or there's still you and another player left, whoever has the higher card, like the princess, would win because they've gotten their letter to the princess. If the princess isn't in play, then just whoever has the highest wins. One card is always removed as well, which means you won't be exactly sure who and who isn't in the court that day. Now, this game is very quick. When you play the basic game I was talking about, it takes probably a minute or two. But the thing is, you don't just play a game, you kind of play it in rounds. And whenever you win a round, you get one of these little favor tokens, and you keep it. And depending on the number of players, you don't win until you get a bunch of these tokens. If I had to have a complaint about the game, it would be that by basic design, the game goes on way too long. Even if you're playing, let's say, a 4-player game and you have the lowest number of cubes that you need to achieve, it's still 4 cubes to win. So if everyone's winning and losing at approximately the same rate, you're probably going to play 12 rounds or more. Well, I guess 13 would be the most. That's unlucky. But if you play with less players, the number of cubes you need goes up significantly. In a 2-player game, you have to win 7 games in order to win. So when we play, we honestly ignore that and we just play until people aren't having fun anymore, or we go to the first person to 2 or 3 cubes. The game is a bit dependent on luck because you're just drawing one card and then playing a card, so you're kind of stuck with whatever you have. But there is a good little bit of strategy behind how you play things, predicting people, bluffing, etc. So it has some interesting mechanics. Another kind of sticky situation that can happen in the game, though, is whenever you play the priest and you look at someone's hand. Usually we just enforce a rule that you're not supposed to talk about what you saw, but there's really nothing in the rules preventing you from doing that. Just saying, oh, they have the princess, make them discard it, they lose. I mean, if you play that way, you could have a bit of mind games going on as well, so that could be interesting, but in a game that's that fast, it feels a little weird. But because of how fast the game is, and because it does have some interesting mechanics, I think it's a fairly good game. It's pretty cheap, and look at the size of the bag. It's easy to fit in a pocket and carry around, and you can teach it in like 30 seconds to a minute. So definitely a good game if you just need something quick and light to play, or you're playing with people who maybe haven't played a lot of games. This is a really easy one to pull out and play, and the theme is interesting. Maybe a little problematic, but you know what? If you don't like that theme, great. Love Letter has been released in so many different variations. You could do Adventure Time Love Letter, Batman Love Letter, Game of Thrones Love Letter. I'm sure there's more that I just can't think of. So if you see this on a shelf and you want a quick little game to play, I highly suggest it. Anyway, that's been my 5-minute review of Love Letter. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and as always, live free, game hard.